Welcome back to our series on language structures, where we're focusing on the upper strands of Scarborough's reading rope, those language comprehension strands. That's what we're focusing on in this series, and we're really diving into semantics and language structures. So if you're new here, my name is Anna DiGilio. I was a primary teacher for 23 years, and in this channel, we talk about all things literacy and reading development. I'm so excited you're here with me today. So we are really going to jump right in, and we are going to start exploring using synonyms in the classroom to really strengthen semantics. Now, if you haven't watched my video, Understanding Semantics, be sure to hop back to that video and watch it first. It really lays down the foundation to dive into the rest of these videos in the series and focus on these individual activities. Before we jump in, if you are new to my channel, please hit that little subscribe button and that little bell next to it so you're alerted every time one of my new videos goes live. Today, we're going to dive into this wonderful world of words. So specifically, we're talking about why it's very important to teach students explicitly about synonyms. So let's jump in. How many of you can relate to this scenario? Your students are in the middle of a writing assignment, and one student, we'll call her Sally, becomes stuck. She's used the word happy 3 times in her sentences. Her writing is really starting to sound repetitive. How many times has that happened to you in your classroom? I know it happened in my classroom all the time. Now, this is really usually about the time that you should really lean in, and we should suggest to Sally to find a synonym for the word happy to make her writing more interesting, because we know that when students learn synonyms, they really gain a super powerful tool to expressing themselves more clearly and absolutely more creatively, right? Knowing that happy can also mean delighted, joyful, fearful, or content really gives students the ability to choose the perfect word for what they want to say. So with a richer vocabulary, a student's writing really becomes more engaging and dynamic. It really helps them to avoid repetition and makes their writing much, much more enjoyable to read. But the importance of synonyms really extends way beyond writing. Understanding synonyms really enhances reading comprehension too. When students encounter new words in the text they're reading, knowing synonyms can help them infer the meanings of these words, which really boosts their overall understanding of what they're reading, which is what we're always striving for, right? Comprehension. It's so important. Plus, a varied vocabulary helps students communicate much more precisely and effectively, which really is such a crucial skill, both inside the classroom and outside the classroom as well. Teaching synonyms explicitly also supports language development. For English language learners or students with limited vocabularies, direct instruction on synonyms really helps bridge those language gaps and really supports the overall language acquisition, right? Which is what we're hoping to achieve with our students. And guess what? Teaching synonyms doesn't have to be complicated or time consuming. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you one of the activities I would use to teach synonyms. Now, I discussed this just very quickly in my last video about the overall understanding of semantics, but it's really worth repeating. I complete a semantics warm-up activity with students every time we're about to read a new book, so they can become familiar with the key vocabulary that's going to appear in the book. I don't always choose synonyms as my activity. Sometimes we're working on prepositions or homophones, for example. But if I have a book in my hand that lends really nicely to a discussion of synonyms, I'll take the chance to complete a quick synonym activity. Let's take this book, for example, a class skit from our Structured Literacy with Ease program. In this book, one of the key terms we're going to focus on is the word gaze. So before we read, I'm going to spend about 2 minutes or so asking students to find the synonyms for the word gaze. I actually like to start with a different word that's a synonym for the focus term so that the students can discover the vocabulary word on their own. It also makes them feel like it's a game a little bit. So in this case, I might focus on the word stare as like the starting off word or the jumping off word that I'll say to students. So we'll start with something like, what does it mean to stare? And I'll start with that question to kind of get the conversation going. What does that mean? What does it mean to stare? Then we'd have a quick, brief discussion about what the word stare means. Then I would challenge the group by saying, okay, turn and talk with a partner and list as many words on a quick whiteboard or a piece of paper or a Post-it note. List as many words as you can that are similar or synonyms for the word stare that you can think of. Because at this point, they know what stare means because we've discussed it. And now what they're doing is they're going to talk to their partners and really start to do a quick brainstorming session. So they start their brainstorming session for whatever time is allotted. So with their partners or in a small group, your students are going to start brainstorming for the time that you give them. Could be 5 minutes. And what happens sometimes is if the students become, at a standstill or get to a standstill, I encourage them maybe use a dictionary or a thesaurus. Could take a little bit more time to do that, but typically they can get some great words after brainstorming a little bit with a partner. So after brainstorming, I bring the group back together or the class back together, and I ask them to share the words that they either found or that they listed. And then what I'll do is I'll list those words on a whiteboard or my smartboard or an anchor chart, wherever it is that all of the students can see it, whether it's in a group or whole class. In most cases, a student or a group does mention the word I'm after, which in this case is the word gaze, which is the word I wanted to get to, right? So I make a big deal about it that they got the word gaze, and I might, ring a class bell or have kids stand up and do some type of victory dance or cheer, something. This works well because it's an activity we repeat every few weeks, and the kids really get excited to try and find the synonym that will appear in the story. It's really just a fun, quick activity to really focus on words that are synonyms. So after we make the list, and if time allows, we'll practice stating sentences that use the synonyms that we've brainstormed, just creating sentences using those words. And in cases where I have time to maybe extend the lesson a little bit, I'll ask the students to put words into like a shades of meaning hierarchy, asking the students to comment on words that are better used for certain contexts. For example, if we brainstorm synonyms for the words gigantic, I might ask them to put the words into a hierarchy like this one, as you can see, where those shades of meaning go from, smaller words like big all the way to the top words like gigantic and enormous, right? And activities like this do not take much time. And when they're done regularly, you really start to see your students' vocabulary grow. I'll never forget the time I was doing this exact activity with students in a small group. And the focus word was annoy. And we came back together to share what synonyms we found. I was really impressed with the words that came up. We got words like bug, irritate, bother, even the word provoke. Yeah, even the word provoke. Some of them had some amazing vocabulary that they can pull from, which is amazing. Then one of my quietest little second graders piped up and excitedly said, exasperate. Hello. Wondering where she ever heard a word like that, I responded, wow, what a great word. I loved when they came up with amazing words. Where have you heard that? She said, that's how my babysitter tells us nicely that we're being annoying. Kids are so funny, aren't they? So later that day, I was walking my class to specials, and I heard a different child, it was a little boy, say to the boy next to him, you really exasperate me, right? It just goes to show that kids are always listening and absorbing the language around them. And if you take the chance to really expose them to new words that are used in the correct context, there's really no limit to how rich their vocabularies can become. So there you have it. This is just a quick example and a quick, simple strategy that you can try in your classrooms, because teaching synonyms really explicitly empowers students to be better writers, better readers, better communicators. And it's really a very simple but incredibly effective way to enhance their language skills and really boost their confidence. So I hope this quick little video on using and teaching synonyms explicitly in your classroom will really help students build their vocabulary and their communication skills as well. This is going to be a whole series on semantics. The next one we're going to focus on is superlatives and comparatives, which is going to be in the next video. And again, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and that little bell next to it so you're alerted every time one of my new videos goes live, because we are diving deep again, as I said, into Scarborough's reading rope and how we teach those upper strands of the rope, which are our language comprehension strands, and how we can teach that either small group or whole group to really make sure that we're not only focusing on phonics and decoding and encoding, but we're really focusing on vocabulary development and morphology and comprehension. It's so important that we're addressing all strands of Scarborough's rope. So thank you so much for watching. I truly appreciate it. And remember, a richer vocabulary opens up a world of possibilities. All right, then, I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.